Tysons can make you feel successful and exhausted. Falls Church can feel less exciting and strangely happier. And most Northern Virginia buyers completely underestimate how much that trade-off affects their everyday life. These are not just two locations. They create completely different experiences. One feels like momentum, stimulation, career energy, and constant motion. The other feels slower, more grounded, more human, more emotionally breathable. And if you choose the wrong fit for your personality and lifestyle, you can slowly burn yourself out, even inside a beautiful home. I've watched people move to Tysons thinking, this feels exciting, this feels modern, this feels successful. And then 6 months later, they feel overstimulated, isolated, stressed, and emotionally exhausted. And I've watched other buyers move to Falls Church, worried it might feel too quiet, too suburban, not exciting enough, only to realize this is the first time our daily life actually feels manageable. Both places can look amazing during a Sunday afternoon showing. Everything feels exciting at 2 p.m. with sunshine and coffee in your hand. Northern Virginia reveals itself on a random weekday evening at 7:12 p.m. when traffic is backed up, you are exhausted, you still need groceries, the dog still needs to be walked, and you are left wondering, does this place actually support the life that I want? And today, we're going deep into Tysons versus Falls Church, the psychology, the commute reality, hybrid work life, walkability, housing, emotional trade-offs, hidden burnout, who thrives in each place, and the lifestyle mistake many buyers don't realize that they're making until after they move. Because this decision affects way more than just your commute. It affects your quality of life. By the way, if you're relocating to Northern Virginia or trying to narrow down where your lifestyle actually fits, reach out to me directly. It's a huge part of what I do is help buyers think through not just the house itself, we'll get to that, but what their actual daily life is realistically going to feel like after the initial excitement wears off. The simplest way I can explain Tysons versus Falls Church is this. Tysons feels like acceleration. Falls Church feels like exhaling. Tysons feels like movement, momentum, career energy, upward mobility, modern luxury, and constant stimulation. Falls Church feels grounded, neighborhood-oriented, emotionally breathable. Problem is, people often buy based on image instead of compatibility. That's where regret begins. Drive around Tysons and think, wow, this feels impressive. The skyline feels modern, the energy feels ambitious, there's visible economic momentum everywhere. For many relocation buyers, Tysons initially feels like, okay, this is where things are happening. And for some people, that environment genuinely is energizing. In fact, they imagine the exciting parts. They don't imagine the repetitive parts. After decades in Northern Virginia real estate, I've learned that people often think they want stimulation. What they actually crave long-term is sustainability, and those are not always the same. Where you live either helps regulate that pressure or it amplifies it. Tysons is one of the most economically powerful areas in all of Northern Virginia. No question about that. You've got major corporations, high-income professionals, luxury development, upscale retail, restaurants, metro access, and tremendous economic momentum. If you're someone who really thrives on stimulation, Tysons can absolutely work very well for you, especially if you travel frequently, work long hours, like newer buildings, enjoy modern looks, or value convenience heavily. I understand the appeal. Here's where the conversation becomes a little more nuanced. Tysons is incredibly convenient. In Tysons, you can walk to incredible restaurants, luxury gyms, upscale shopping, rooftop bars, beautiful modern buildings. Sometimes you're also taking 2 elevators, crossing giant intersections, walking through parking structures, navigating 6 lanes of traffic, surrounded by constant movement and stimulation. Meanwhile, in Falls Church, you can walk down a shaded sidewalk past local restaurants, people walking dogs. It creates a completely different emotional texture to your day. There's another factor that's changed this conversation dramatically over the last several years, especially since COVID: hybrid work. Tysons originally evolved around office culture. People came to Tysons to work. Now, many people are living there while they're working remotely, 2, 3, sometimes even 5 days a week. And that changes the entire experience If you work remotely in Tysons, then the area can sometimes feel oddly transient during the day. People are moving fast, commuting, heading into offices, going somewhere else. Some remote workers eventually have told me, I didn't realize how isolated I would feel here during the workday. Density does not create community. Sometimes dense environments can actually feel very anonymous. Meanwhile, in Falls Church during the middle of the day, you'll often see your neighbors walking dogs, people sitting outside cafes, parents with strollers, retirees outside, and people casually interacting, creating a whole different rhythm if you work remotely. I've had buyers tell me, Brian, the condo is gorgeous, the amenities, they're amazing. Location is technically perfect, but I constantly feel like I'm on. Tysons can feel professionally energizing and emotionally draining for certain people, especially people who already have highly demanding jobs. If you enjoy this type of lifestyle analysis, you should also check out my videos on Arlington versus Alexandria and the hidden burnout of long Northern Virginia commutes. All of these lifestyle decisions are deeply connected. Falls Church has a completely different rhythm. One of the biggest mistakes that outsiders make is assuming that because Falls Church feels calmer, it's somehow less sophisticated. And that's not true at all. In many ways, Falls Church attracts people who are incredibly intentional about their quality of life. People who will often say, I still want access to everything, but I don't want my entire existence to feel like a corporate obstacle course. That's a real buyer mindset. One thing that I personally love about areas like Falls Church is that they still feel connected to actual neighborhood life. You can still have a favorite local coffee shop, a restaurant where people recognize you, walkable routines, casual interactions, and a slower evening pace. Now, from a housing perspective, Falls Church is much more architecturally varied than Tysons is. I think that contributes to the feel of the area. Instead of rows of modern glass towers, you'll see Ramblers, expanded Cape Cods, older colonials, craftsman rebuilds, new construction, infill homes, front porches, yards, trees, and streets with personality. It feels layered, less polished, more personal. Price-wise, Falls Church is not inexpensive, not even close. Depending on where you are, you may see condos in roughly the 400s to 700,000s, townhomes from around 700,000 to the 1.3 million plus range, and detached homes are commonly from 900,000 to well over $2 million. In prime Falls Church city locations, price per square foot can become shockingly high because buyers are not simply paying for square footage. They're paying for walkability. They're paying for the schools, community feel, identity, and emotional livability. And those things are harder to quantify online. One thing I always tell buyers is Tysons and Falls Church are not just selling different homes. They're often selling completely different versions of life. That may sound dramatic, but I think it's true. Those differences show up clearly in the housing itself. Tysons real estate, heavily shaped by modern development. Over there, you'll see luxury condos, high-end apartment buildings, newer townhomes, mixed-use communities, walkable commercial integration, sleek finishes, amenity-heavy living. For many buyers, that is extremely appealing, especially people coming from DC, New York, Chicago, Boston, or other urban environments. You can live in a beautiful building, just walk downstairs and get coffee, hit the gym, jump on Metro, grab your dinner nearby, and maintain a highly efficient lifestyle. And a lot of what buyers are paying for in Tysons is the proximity and convenience, modern infrastructure, and access to economic centers. If you value lock and leave convenience, Tysons can really work for you. A lot of the lifestyle becomes internally oriented. Your building becomes your ecosystem, your gym, your rooftop, your elevator, your parking garage, your concierge, and your amenities. Some people absolutely love that. Falls Church feels different because lifestyle extends beyond the walls of the house. The neighborhood becomes part of the experience. Sidewalks matter, there's the local cafes, evening walks matter, and over time, those small things can become significant. Northern Virginia is not just about distance. One of the biggest things relocation buyers underestimate. Two places may technically be 5 miles apart, 8 miles apart, or even closer than that, and yet feel worlds apart in daily life. That is because every environment creates a different amount of friction, which accumulates. There's traffic, parking, noise, crowding, mental friction, decision fatigue. But I always tell buyers, don't just test the house, test the Tuesday. Drive the commute at realistic hours. Go to the grocery store when you would normally go there. Walk the dog route. Sit in the environment after dark. Test the parking situation. Try entering and exiting during rush hour. Excitement during a house showing is not the same thing as daily living. Tysons, like we've talked about, can be incredibly convenient, or it can be unbelievably frustrating, sometimes during the same day. You may technically live very close to things while still feeling constantly interrupted. There's a huge difference between being near things and feeling at ease. Falls Church is not magically traffic-free. Far from it. It's still Northern Virginia. But many people describe it as just easier. Not necessarily faster, but easier. There's often less sensory overload and more neighborhood continuity, less corporate intensity. After years of high-pressure Northern Virginia life, that kind of a community feels valuable for many people. Even more important if you work remotely. If you're spending huge portions of your life near home, your environment matters more than ever. Some remote workers eventually realize, I optimized my location for commuting, but I'm barely commuting anymore. Walkability, community, parks, coffee shops, daily atmosphere becomes much more important. One reason why Falls Church has become increasingly attractive post-2020. Now, obviously, some of these things I've been talking about are generalizations, but after many years helping buyers move all around Northern Virginia, there are patterns that absolutely emerge. Tysons often works best for people who enjoy energy, movement, modernity, density, and convenience. But the people who tend to struggle there long-term are often already highly stressed, emotionally overloaded, introverted, or craving more grounding than they initially realized. Eventually, they discover, I don't want every part of my life optimized. Falls Church often attracts people who want balance, community, walkability, stability, and sustainability. Many highly successful people quietly migrate towards places like Falls Church later in life. Sometimes maturity changes what luxury means. At 32, luxury may mean a rooftop pool, skyline views, and a sleek lobby. At 48, luxury may mean less stress, more time, walkability, quiet evenings in a neighborhood where you can finally calm down. One thing that I love about doing relocation real estate in Northern Virginia is seeing how deeply personal these decisions are. Underneath all the conversations about price, schools, commute, and square footage, people are really asking this: what kind of life do I want to build? The biggest mistake buyers make when comparing Tysons and Falls Church is this: they buy for identity instead of reality. They buy the image, the aspiration, the fantasy version of themselves, not their actual lived life. People buy based on what sounds impressive, what photographs well, what feels exciting during a showing, or what they think successful people are supposed to want. Eventually, reality arrives and asks much different questions. Am I constantly rushing? How stressful are simple errands? Do I feel restored here or constantly stimulated? Homes are not just investments. They are operating systems for your life. Tysons and Falls Church are not simply different zip codes or different places on a map. They represent different rhythms of life. Tysons says, stay moving. Falls Church says, slow down enough to actually enjoy your life. Either one, Tysons or Falls Church, could absolutely be the right answer. This area is filled with smart people, driven people, hardworking people, and high achievers. And that is part of what makes Northern Virginia so exciting. Sometimes highly driven people become so focused on optimizing their career, commute, status, and efficiency, they forget to optimize for their life, for actually enjoying the place that they live. So, if you're relocating to Northern Virginia and trying to figure out where your personality fits, where your lifestyle fits, what environment will actually support your long-term happiness, or whether Tysons, Falls Church, Arlington, Alexandria, McLean, Vienna, or somewhere else makes the most sense for your life, reach out to me directly. These are the conversations I love having, not just what's the interest rate or how many bedrooms, but instead, how do you actually want your life to feel? That question matters. If you enjoyed this video, Make sure you subscribe. I create a lot of Northern Virginia content focused on real estate, but also on the emotional reality of living here.